Howdy mates, good late morning, how are we all doing? It is Wednesday, July 19th, 2023, and here's my first video. So I'm over revisiting the one and only Hillsborough River State Park that is based up in Thonotosassa, which is basically just northeast of Tampa. Now, the Hillsborough River encompasses the Hillsborough River watershed, which is a decent sized watershed. It's up to 700 square miles, so that's quite extensive. And as always, rivers always represent the flow of a watershed. Now, for those of you not familiar with the definition of a watershed, it basically defines an area that water is stored, kind of like a shed, hence watershed. So it's one of those deals where basically no matter where you go, no matter what part of the world, you're always on top of some type of watershed. So think of it as like a underground water supply. So eventually, some of that water will meet with a drainage basin, and that is essentially where the headwaters of a stream forms. Now, granted, we're not exactly at the location where the Hillsborough River starts, but this is one of the more active parts of the river itself, because really, in Florida, when it comes to blackwater rivers, we don't really see rapids too often at all. But in this case, we are. Because fortunately, we're at a section where some of the bedrock got exposed, which is mostly limestone. Now, the thing is, given that we are in the wet season, the water levels are a bit higher right now. So usually when it's earlier in the year, when it hasn't rained as much, you can definitely see more of the clarity of the water, as well as even the boulders that form over here. Now, that being said, there's actually a lot that's going on in this river right now as we speak, when it comes to our macro invertebrates and those who form the lower levels of the food chain. For instance, we have in each and every river, we have what is known as our filters. I had to think of the right word for it. Our filters. So like, for instance, you can find a bunch of freshwater clams in this river itself. And of course, they're responsible for cleaning out the water from excessive nutrient content. Thus, in a sense, it cleans the water a bit more. Makes it a little less contaminated. And then, of course, we have some of our scrappers, which include, for instance, crawfish. You know, commonly what they'll do is they'll feed on some of the aquatic vegetation that is found in this river. And for another, they'll also feed on some detritus too, which is mostly like decayed plant material, maybe even some sediments. They'll break that up even more. So that way then, the river has a chance to properly breathe and flow properly as well. So it just goes to show that we may not see it directly. There's a lot that's going on right now in this river. in terms of the, like the different levels of life, more or less. And you figure all of those smaller organisms that I just discussed, that is also a food source for some of our larger organisms, whether it be our birds, our mammals, and even our reptiles. So it just goes to show that even at a small scale, it just goes to show that each and every part of the food chain plays a crucial role as well in the ecology of a given area. And that just doesn't necessarily apply to here. We're basically talking throughout the planet. Pretty darn cool. Now we have all of these cycles, and yet some of these services are being provided for free. But anyway, really though, if you guys haven't been, I would of course recommend. It is, the Hillsborough River State Park is truly a gem in this part of the state. And you know, we're finally starting to get to that northern cusp of Florida, where it starts to get a bit more, I should say, elevated, as well as a little more hilly too. So alright, you guys, take care, you have a good one, and of course, journey on a journey is onwards. Take care, folks. See ya.